Phil, I guess we're ready, whenever you're ready. You good? Okay. I'd like to call to order our regular board meeting for March 14th, 2022. And we'd like to welcome you to the meeting of the Buchanan Community Schools Board of Education. Again, all of our regular meetings have been posted district-wide on our websites, in our office, central office in each of our buildings, and tonight's agenda has been posted as well and been emailed out to all the board members along with a board packet. There is a copy of the agenda at the back if you haven't gotten one. You can pick that up there. Also, as I said, that the board members do receive a packet of the meeting ahead of time so that they can review and be prepared to answer questions and discuss in a informed manner as part of the official offices of our duties. The meeting of the Board of Education in public is for the purposes of conducting the school district's business. Is not to be considered a public community meeting. We do have a time for public participation in the meeting indicated in agenda item J. And if there is a person that wants to make a presentation to the board, there is a speaker card that can be filled out and passed to the board president. And with that said, may we have the Pledge of Allegiance, shall we say it?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let's go with roll call next.
Mr. Lee.
Here.
Ms. Berry.
Here.
Mr. Carlson.
Here.
Ms. Lesh here. Dr. Carlin.
Here.
Ms. Ryder. Here. And Dr. Burnett.
Here. Moving on to the adoption of the agenda, may we have a motion, please?
I motion the agenda for the board meeting of March 14th, 2022 be adopted as written.
Support.
All right. Roll call when you're ready.
Yep. Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Ms. Berry.
Yes.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin.
Yes.
Ms. Ryder.
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item E, recognition of visitors. Again, we'd like to welcome you to our board meeting. Any special visitors out there, Ms. Robinson?
No, none. Except for our Buck Appreciation winner. She is here tonight to receive her award, Amber. So.
Very good. Moving on to superintendent and department reports.
Okay, so first on the agenda is the recognition of our Buck Staff Appreciation winner for March, as well as Ms. Amber Braden, who is here in our audience, along with her fiance. And so we'll have Kelly Lesh. She usually reads off the winners and then also reads the submission for the winner.
So this month for Buck Staff Appreciation, March winner is Amber Breeden for Moccasin Media Assistant. And then the list of nominees is Anzabeth Contreras, Moccasin Speech and Language Pathologist, Bobby Kaufman, Buchanan Community School Operation Utility Staff, Erica Amiel, Moccasin 4th grade teacher, Jane Mitchell, Buchanan Community Schools School Farm Outdoor Education Coordinator, Jennifer Lentz, Buchanan High School science teacher, Jessica Mansma, Ottawa GSRP teacher, Lisa Traeger, Ottawa 1st grade teacher, Missy Lyon, Buchanan Middle School special education teacher, Sarah Castelluccio, Buchanan Middle School art teacher. And then you had 2 submissions. One of them I have to read because it's hilarious, but Amber goes above and beyond whenever we are short or in need of a teacher coverage. Amber willingly will fill in. Sometimes she hears or sees we are short and sends a quick text to say, hey, I can cover. Amber never says no, and there are times I feel we abuse the privilege, but she is a true team player and truly shows up and does the job, and then does it well. There are many days that if we did not have her here, we would be sunk. From making calls for quarantine in 2020, 2021, to running deposits to the high school to help cover recess duty, all things that are not in the job description, but willingly helps out or sees the need and volunteers. She is a true unsung hero at Moccasin and so very often gets overlooked. Dr. Michael Dunn. While pulling up to drop off my kid off at Moccasin in the morning, I am sure, along with dozens of other parents, always had my eye out for the pothole. You know the one I speak of, making sure not to drive into it for fear of bursting my tire, or making sure to pull ahead enough or stay behind just enough so that my kid wouldn't get out and twist an ankle. This morning while pulling up, I was searching for it and it was gone. It had been fixed. I was made aware that Amber Breeden was the awesome person who got the pothole in the Moccasin car pickup drop-off line fixed. On behalf of myself and presumably most of the Moccasin parents who dropped their little darlings off, we thank you. So that one was awesome too. But
All right. So we're going to present the
yes.
award to Amber.
Thank you. She's gonna take a picture.
Good. All right, and congratulations to all of our nominees as well.
Yep.
So, moving on to agenda item G, recommended action other.
Harvey?
Yes.
There's some board updates on there?
Oh,
Sorry, part 2
sorry, running ahead of
or
myself.
3.
Go right ahead, Mrs.
So we also have just board updates in your packets. There should be one on here for Mark. All right. Yeah, so the board updates are in your packet. Those are the reports that each of the building principals submit, and then also department heads submit. The others will be in section H for presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. Moving on to item G, and I don't think we have any requests to go into closed session.
No, we do not, and pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, we can only go into closed session if the parent requests.
Requests it.
So we do not have that request, and despite multiple attempts, we were unable to get it. So we will need to move forward with open session for this one, and we'll just do everything possible to keep the identity disclosed.
Very good, and we'll refer as the student. Okay?
Okay, so on March 4th, 2022, Buchanan Middle School Administration was notified of an email sent by the student to another email. This email read, "Guess who just got back from the school discount at Walmart," and included a picture of 3 AR-15 assault rifles. Further investigation in partnership with the Buchanan Police Department found a second email was sent to a different student, including the same picture and the words, "Guess who got the back-to-school pack on Wish." Copies of these can be found in the expulsion packet that I included for you on page 8 and 9. On page 2 of that packet, you can also see the summary of the suspension conference. We were able to speak with the student at that conference. It was myself, the student, and Mr. Franzak. We stated the charges, and then the student admitted to sending the emails and stated that they were meant as a school shooting joke. No parent was present due to the inability to contact anyone, and the student was at school with us until 8:15 that evening, when we were working in partnership with the Buchanan Police Department to make sure that it was safe to send the student home. And then when the parent did not show up for that, the student was released into police and CPS custody. You can also see on this page information of the interventions that we tried in regards to health and psychological services, and all the different parent conference attempts and contact attempts that were made with the inability to be successful in contacting the parent. On page 3 of your packet, you can see a brief overview of the student's grades and attendance throughout the year with a more detailed glimpse of his attendance, of the student's attendance on page 4 and 5. If you note on that page 3 right there, there's been over 170 class periods missed from this student this school year. And then on page 6 and 7, there's a discipline history involving a few physical altercations, sleeping in class. And so ultimately, this conduct, the email sending, constitutes a violation of the following policies in the board: BCS policy 5517.01 and policy 5610. And the intimidating and threatening nature of these emails, whether joking or not, caused a potential disruption to the safety and general practice of teaching and learning at Buchanan Middle School and violates the school board policies previously mentioned. Due to this, the administration of Buchanan Middle School is requesting the expulsion of the student for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year.
Okay. Any questions, board members, for Mrs. Beasley?
Just to understand, you were never able to talk to the parents?
Never.
Okay.
And you did indicate that the child was released to police and CPS custody?
Correct.
And that matter has been turned over to the prosecutor's office.
Correct.
So they have to, they're still making a decision on that.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Beasley.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's move on to item G3, student discipline. And we need to do a motion, and let me turn there. Anything board members would like to add, or just, are we ready to go ahead and vote?
I just think I always double check, but just one thing, that the student will have to meet certain requirements, and then they have to apply for reinstatement for this year, the remaining of 2021-22 school year is the expulsion. And so then they would have to meet all requirements. So I just wanted to make that public, that they will have to actually request reinstatement.
Okay, anything else? All right. The the Buchanan Board of Education adopts the following resolution. Whereas administration has presented to the Board of Education a recommendation concerning the expulsion of a student who was in violation of Buchanan School Board Policy Number 5517.01 on Friday, March 4, 2020. And whereas administration has notified the student and parents involved of the accusation against the student, the recommendation of expulsion and their rights to a hearing on this date. Now therefore be it resolved, the Buchanan Board of Education chooses to expel student number 43027064669 from attendance in Buchanan Community Schools for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year, with the following conditions to be met for possible reinstatement to Buchanan Middle School for the first semester of the 2022-2023 school year. Number one, through the remainder of the second semester of the 2021-2022 school year, we request that student number 43027064669 successfully complete the current school year while attending BVA, the Step Up program, or another alternative setting. Number 2, the student must have counseling completed within outside the school district professional responsibility of the parent or guardian prior to readmittance meeting with the superintendent of the Buchanan Community Schools. Number 3, upon the completion of the first 2 steps, the student and parents or guardian must contact the superintendent of Buchanan Community Schools to schedule a remittance hearing back into Buchanan Community Schools. And number 4, any recommendation will be reviewed by the Buchanan School Board before decision to reinstate student number 43027-06469 will be made. Student may be remitted if all board policies have been met. And I think that covered what you wanted.
Support.
Yep. You have a support?
Harvey, one just clarification point. At the beginning, it was March 4th, 2022.
Did I say 11th?
You said March 4th, 2020.
Oh, my. Thank you. I appreciate that. So March 4, 2020. Thank you for the correction. 2022. Thank you. No sleep. All right. And let's do roll call.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Miss Berry,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
Miss Lesh, yes, Dr. Carlin,
Yes.
Miss Ryder,
Yes.
and Dr. Burnett.
Yes. And just let people know, this is just one of the hardest things that we have to do as a school board is deal with such hearings. All right, moving right along to item H for presentations. And I think Mrs. Dennison is up first.
Yep, Mrs. Dennison.
I think Phil has my PowerPoint that he's going to help me project. Good evening, Board, Superintendent Robinson, and viewing audience. I'm Stacy Dennison. I'm the principal at Ottawa Elementary. That is our preschool, kindergarten, and first grade building. And I am excited to showcase and highlight what we're doing to promote literacy at Ottawa, especially during the month of March, where March is typically denoted as March is Reading Month. And at Ottawa, we have the unique opportunity to provide students with their first school experience and just build that strong foundation for literacy, which encompasses both reading and writing. So the first quote that you see up there, that literacy is a journey, not a race. We understand that each student comes in with different needs and they grow at different rates. So we support our students and meet them where they are, making sure that wherever they are in the journey, that they do believe that they are readers and writers. Okay, maybe he's going to just flip the screens for me. Young children need writing to help them learn about reading. They need reading to help them learn about writing, and they need oral language to help them learn about both. So literacy is interconnected, and it's a pretty complex process. So throughout our work with the Hill Literacy Project and with the facilitation of Dr. Mark Tompkins, we've been leaning into some science of reading research. So I have 2 parts to my presentation tonight. One's going to be an instructional focus, and the other one's going to be on celebrating our students and what we're doing for March's Reading Month. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the science of reading, and it's more about how the brain learns, and this helps guide us to explore the implications that it has on our teaching within the classroom. So maybe Phil and I are doing it both at the same time now. Generally speaking, the science of reading is a body of research and studies that people have compiled to learn more about how the brain works for reading and writing. There's been some shifts over the years. This is my 23rd year, and there's been lots of shifts from whole language to balanced literacy. And those were not what we're finding really dig into how people actually learn and how the brain actually works. So the science of reading, it's not anything new. It's been around for 50 years. as long as I've been on this earth. And across the world, multiple languages. So it's been well researched, and it's evidence-based. So we want to try to do, what we do at Ottawa based on research and evidence-based practices. So one of the researchers, Dr. Hollis Scarborough, back in the 90s, invented this concept of the reading rope, which you'll see up on the screen. It has many different pieces that are intertwined. And when she first developed this, she wanted parents to understand all the pieces that go into making a fluent reader. Each of those pieces represent the main areas that are believed to all work together, braiding it into that final piece where you have a skilled reader. So at Ottawa, when we took a look at this, we're actually focusing on the top part of that rope. We are using this as a guide as we're working in our PLCs to pull out research and find out ways that we can build a strong, systematic and explicit instruction with phonemic awareness, which is one of those threads on the top, phonics, and word recognition. All the routines that we're finding, we're also searching for ways to learn all the different learning modalities. Visual, 65 to 70% of our learners are visual learners. Oral, and kinesthetic. So as we're teaching letters, sounds, we're integrating all of those modalities, and that helps solidify the learning with students. So I'm going to give you some examples of what we're doing. So in kindergarten, we do a letter sound drill. And students see the letter, they say the letter, and then they use a hand motion for the sound as well. So just for example, A, apple, A. And they pretend that they're biting the apple, incorporating that movement. For the phonemic awareness, we're doing lots of sound and word manipulating with substituting, deleting sounds. So say the word lake, the first sound is l, change that to what word do you get? And the students put it together to make the word make. So that's the phonemic awareness piece. And the word recognition, we're shifting to using more decodable readers, where students are able to decode and crack the code on stretching out words. And that helps with fluency as well. So the routines that we're building for high-frequency words, and that's the other sight word recognition, is to follow the research on how the brain actually maps the word into memory from speech to print. So we've made a shift in some of the instruction that we're doing that's making more systematic, more explicit, and focusing on those three top portions of the braid. So then as they travel over to Moccasin, then they can work more on the vocabulary comprehension piece after we have a solid foundation for the decoding at Ottawa. So now I'm going to shift to the more fun part. I love March. When I taught first grade, literacy and teaching reading was my jam, was my thing. I love to see the kids put the pieces together and able to go from a semi-choppy non-reader to a fluent chapter book reader by the end of the year, and they just make so much growth in first grade. So March's Reading Month was always a favorite time of year for me as a teacher, but also as an administrator, because we are doing lots of different things to promote reading and having students, even at the preschool level, even in our ECSE classroom, believe that they too can read, even if it's just identifying a letter. So I want to just go over some of the things that we've been doing during the month. Some activities we've been doing are a teacher swap, where teachers swap with another teacher to read within the classroom, so students get to know other teachers in the building. We've been kind of isolated the last couple of years, cohorting classes, and now we're moving out of that, where we're starting to intermix more. We did a riddle scavenger hunt, which was a big hit. They traveled around the building and read different riddles. Every Friday, we do Drop Everything and Read. Several times throughout the day, kids can bring in a favorite book from home, and I do different times throughout the day that we drop everything that we're doing and read, which Mrs. Hurd and I both participate in as well. We do Ticket Tuesday. That's part of our PBIS Buck 3. We collect our tickets on Tuesday, but we've taken that, and the bin that we have for our tickets, we actually pull tickets out and give books away during the month of March. The Story Carousel, which, if you want to see the final copy, will be in our library. We took a story and started it in one classroom, and we shifted it. One class started it, sent it to another room, so every classroom has the opportunity to add to the story, and Mrs. Baker's putting that into a book for us that will be showcased in the library for students to read. And then we have our Word Shirt Day, where it's one of the last weeks. We just wear a word, or a shirt with a word on it. So that's some of our monthly activities. But we also, a big hit has been our guest readers. As I said, we've kind of been closed off to volunteers. We're shifting back into bringing the community back into our buildings. Guest readers we've had 90 guest readers as of today. And when I look at the March calendar, we had 10 school days. So that's a phenomenal amount of readers in 10 days of school. We will easily exceed 100. We still have this week and the week after spring break. We'll continue to do that. So if any of you would like to sign up for a time, you're more than welcome to come be our guest reader. I know Superintendent Robinson is lined up for one of those dates. But it's been overwhelming just to see people in the building. I try to talk to as many as I can as they're coming in and leaving, and they're just ecstatic. They say they've had a wonderful time. They like to be in the classrooms. It's been great. So just building that school community connection has been a wonderful experience. I know it's been keeping Mrs. Hurd busy because her job is to take a picture of every reader that comes in the door and signs in. So she's been hopping and trying to keep up with those. On Thursdays, and this is where Superintendent Robinson will be one of our special reader Thursdays. We had a local author come in, and we also had Buchanan's mayor come in and read. So each Thursday we have a special reader, and she'll be our, we're not doing one this Thursday, but she'll be our final reader when we come back from spring break. So I hope no students are watching out there because we like to keep that under wraps, who our final guest reader is going to be. I have one more clip that I want to share with you. I went around, since we're doing all these systematic, explicit activities with our students, I went around and asked, what have you learned this year that helps you become a better reader and writer? So I've interviewed some kids, and I wanted to share this video with you. They're going to tell us what they've learned to be better readers and writers so far this year.
Airplane line and grass line and worm line help us write our letters. So this is how you do the H. You go down from the skyline to the grass line, up to the airplane line and down.
So if there is a word that you can't,
airplane line and grass line and worm line help us write our letters. So this is how you do the H. You go down from the skyline to the grass line, up to the airplane line and down.
So if there is a word that you can't, like, so say I had the word shovel and I can't spell it, I would break it in half. And then I would say shovel. Then once I would say shovel, then I would keep on reading.
To how to learn, you gotta sound the words out to read.
Like if you then tap them, and then I put them all together to make a word. I gotta think of a word. Map. So there's these like books, and so I practice them, and that's how I become a better reader. I tap them out, and I sound them. If it doesn't sound right, you say the difference, and then you get it. So to be a better reader, you use cards that are ING, INK, like those, and like ALL, which is all. We do words that end with those, like I-N-K, pink, ink, and we do motions to them to learn them. So Blue Book is something where we learn and do letters. And if Miss Meepy was going to ask you if I have the word show, take away, and a book, I have a bow. What helps me be a better reader is tapping out letters and sounds. We learn our ABCs and we learn the alphabet sounds. And trick words to help us be better readers. When we're at the teacher table, we sometimes scoop, and it helps me read faster instead of just using my fingers, and I usually lose track. Something that helps me to be a better reader is scooping letters and trick words and scooping words.
Can you give me an example of a trick word?
Is T-O-O.
Why is a trick word?
Because the S says Z. I tap about sounds and I read about it. We have to read a book. We have to read a paper. We stretch out letters and we tap them out. A apple, A. B bat, B, and C cat, C. We are readers. I am a reader. I can read. I'm a reader. I'm a reader. I'm a reader. I'm a reader. I'm a reader.
Aw, that was sweet.
So you heard some commonalities. Those students were just grabbed randomly. You heard scooping. We have motions. So all those things that, and actually scooping is like to work on fluency. So if it's, the sentence is, I see the cat and dog, you would scoop, I see the cat and the dog. So it's not robot, I used to call it robot reading, I see the cat. So when Grayson was talking about that, it's better to scoop, then he doesn't lose track of where he is as he's tracking the words. It was cute. But you'll hear that language when you come through the building. Our reading instructional time is in the morning from 9 until about 11:30 with kindergarten and first grade. We've carved out specific tier 1 time that there's no pullout during that time. Students are not missing that classroom instruction. They're all getting that. It's no speech pullout, there's no pullout. So teachers are doing that explicit instruction, reading instruction during that time, so every child receives that. But you'll hear from classroom to classroom the common language that they're using, trick words. So good stuff going on with reading, and March is always a fun month to celebrate literacy. So are there any questions?
Oh, thank you. That was great, that video. I know you're you're so busy. So.
Oh, that wasn't anything. Phil was more irritated that I did it on not his brand of computer, which we had to transfer over to a different one. But that was more of a headache than actually interviewing them and putting it together. But it was fun. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, so other highlights. So in your board packets are the reports from our department heads. We will have one from Mark this month. And before Mark comes up, I just want to commend our entire district. We've been all over the county last week.
Last week was busy.
It was really busy. Our athletic teams did really well, districts and regional. Our band received ones, and Science Olympiad, the robotics team. We've just been really busy, and Buchanan is on the map in Michigan and Marion County. So, and then on top of that, Mark is going to present some really good, some substantial data around our NWEA assessment, which compares our student scores, winter data, to some of the other districts in our county. So, Mark, you can come on up and give that report. So it's exciting to be a buck at this point.
Yeah.
Lots of good things going on.
All right, you have this presentation in your, the slides in your packet. All right, it's kind of hard to see up there, but in your packet, if you're looking at slide 2, just to kind of give you an idea, slide 2 is talking about NWA mean RIT score, so the average RIT score for each grade. And just a couple highlights on this slide. If you're looking at the green, that is the grade levels that are at the mean RIT for that grade level. And so if you look in the county, there's 3 districts here that have like 99.9% of their kids at grade level in each grade, mean RIT score. And if you look at Buchanan for the winter, we're only, we have 2 grades that aren't quite there, but the rest of them are there. And so just that's what's for reading. If you look down at math, and you're looking at the green, the same 3 districts in the county have 100% all green, and if you look at Buchanan for the winter scores, we have all but 1 grade. We're at the mean RIT score. So just want to kind of give you an idea of where we're at. So you can figure we're like 2 or 3 in the second or third in the county for mean RIT score. So our K through 8 average is doing well. Teachers are working hard. If you look at slide 3, that is the showing the grade levels at or above the norm. So national norm, and there's 2 districts above us at 71% and 1 district at 61. So there's 2 that were tied at 71, and then Buchanan was 3rd with a 60% average for K through 8. That's for fall to winter, and we're actually the only county in reading, the only district in the county in reading that showed growth from fall to winter. So obviously there were a couple districts that were already high, but we had growth from fall to winter. And if we're at 60% average, you can see the county average is 50%. And then if you move down to math, we were 4th in the county with 57% of our K through 8 kids at or above the norm. And we were one of 3 districts to show growth, and the county average was 47%, so well above the county average. And then the last slide there shows the percent of students showing growth. Their growth was met from fall to winter. In reading, we had 56% of our kids in K through 8 on average met their growth. That was 2nd in the county. And the average for the county was 48.9. And then for math, 56.2% of our K through 8 kids met their growth from fall to winter. And again, that was 2nd in the county. And the average was 48.3%. So kudos to all of our staff members. It's a team effort, but just wanted to bring that in front of you this month and kind of show you where we're at.
So, and then in addition to this, some of this data does link to our MSTEP test as well. So it can kind of gauge, based off of this information, where students will land on our MSTEP. So it's helpful in that way. And then teachers also utilize this data with providing instructional support to students too. So helping them meet those growth targets. So.
And that was going to be my question, is when you look, so we were a couple under in the reading score, and then the math in the gray. Like, we use these obviously to know where to focus. Is that what the point?
Yeah, the principals can actually get in a little bit deeper. There's some different reports in NWE that they can get in and look at specific class, specific areas where kids are struggling, and work with their intervention groups.
Okay.
Within that. So that was just kind of an overall, just big picture.
No,
So.
great.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And that's it for the.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay.
reports.
All right. Okay, moving on to item I, information reports and new business.
So, yes, I held the Parent Advisory Committee meeting. This one was focused on academic programming at the high school. There were two parents, actually Ms. Brackett and Mr. Chase attended this along with the high school principal and Brandon Flowers, the high school counselor. We talked about scheduling, trying to make sure that some of our students who are in classes like band would have the opportunities to take some of the more advanced courses. So I think we ended up with what we can do. We cannot address everything, but we did in some place with making an adjustment, I think with fifth hour or something like that. Okay, and then human resources, I think.
Yeah, I have
Thank
that.
you.
So on, let's see what date that was.
March 2nd.
March 2nd, the Human Resources Committee met, and that was Kelly Lesh, Tris Robinson, and Carrie Brunsting, and myself. Katie had other opportunities that day. We basically talked about two major things, and the first one was the idea of succession planning. And how do we discuss all of this and cross-train, which is really essential now with so many of us focusing on one particular thing, and if that individual has to be out of district for a prolonged time or because of retirement or resignation, we really need to cross-train those positions. We also talked about attrition. And formulating a plan B if we are unable to replace staff because of a variety of reasons, including the lack of individuals who are applying. We have to figure out what we can do, a better process, a better procedure. And so we have to look outside the box and see if we can, for example, when we're hire individuals who have not one major and only that area, but they're cross-trained before we even get them. Looking at curriculum balance and equity, class sizes. We also discussed the issue of small class sizes at the high school and whether or not we can start offering more electives and additional courses that students might be interested in. So it's an ongoing discussion, but we're looking ahead to the future.
Okay, and the next three are mine, and they all focus around our parent advisory. We did break off into subcommittees. So I followed back up with two of the subcommittee groups this month, or three of them. But the next one is the calendar subcommittee group. We took one final look at the proposed calendar, offering, asking for more insight, input to that calendar, and they gave us a thumbs up for that. So Mark and I did meet with that parent subgroup. Another parent advisory subcommittee was the Spanish academic programming. So one of the meetings, one of the parents just asked, why isn't Spanish offered at a lower grade level, elementary? So we do have a group that is exploring how that can happen. One of the things that we are exploring is maybe something after school on like Wednesdays, where we could utilize some of our high school Spanish teachers after they're finished with their professional development, and possibly some students who are in a more advanced Spanish class to help out with that. We could also kind of ask parents if they have some sort of level in Spanish to volunteer for an after-school kind of like club. Yep, nice. Club, and it would focus not more on the grammar, but just kind of some of your everyday words, really, really simple. Nice.
Conversation in Spanish.
Mr. Munyon kind of helped guide us in that group, since he was the expert there, and he is looking at just some program curriculum pieces to put together for us with that group. And so we're also going to ask for some possible funding from one of our foundations to see if we can offer stipends to those who volunteer to help with the students. So that way we can rotate around and someone wouldn't have to be committed for the whole school year, but we would have a variety of people coming in and teaching these words and vocabulary to students. And then the next group was our whole parent advisory committee group. We met last week. Thank you to all those families who were able to come. I know we were split between the game and band, and we did just kind of culminate everything and give updates at that meeting. So it was a pretty busy month for the parent advisory.
Great, very good. Moving on to item J, Community Dialogue Citizens Concerns, and I don't have any cards. So, all right. Moving on to item K, adoption of the consent agenda. May we have a motion, please?
I make a motion, the Board of Education approves the consent agenda for the regular board meeting of March 14th, 2022 be adopted as written. 1, minutes for the 2/22/2022 regular meeting. 2, warrants, treasury and expenditure reports, February 2022. 3, coaching recommendation for spring 2021-22 submitted by athletic coordinator Mark Fry. The coach, Jim DeVlamick, varsity assistant track coach. And then that's it.
Support.
All right. And let's have roll call.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Miss Berry,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
Miss Lesh, yes, Dr. Carlin,
Yes.
Miss Ryder,
Yes.
and Dr. Burnett.
Yes. And moving on to item I, recommended action, and we'll move to I1, BVA graduation certificate. May we have a motion, please?
I move upon satisfactory completion of the district requirements for each high school graduation, the Board of Education hereby approves Buchanan Virtual Academy student Shane Grimmig and Buchanan Step Up student Amanda Holt.
Support.
All right. Ms. Robinson, anything to add?
Nothing but congratulations to these two for completing the requirements.
Very good. Roll call.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Miss Berry,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
Miss Lesh, yes, Dr. Carlin,
Yes.
Miss Ryder,
Yes.
and Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item I2, 2021-2022 additional extracurricular assignments. May we have a motion?
I'll make the motion that the Board of Education approves the additional Buchanan Community School extracurricular assignments for the remainder of the 2021-22 school year. Ryan Franzak for the main advisor of the PBIS Pride Committee. Carissa Todd for the mentor of Paula Tusik. And Stacy Lee for the mentor of Julie, I'm going to butcher it, Raduca.
Second.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything to add?
Support.
Oh.
That's okay.
I
Anything?
have a question. What is the top part, sorry, on this additional, did we miss anything due to,
Well, we had to make changes because someone left.
okay, we didn't
and-
need to state any of that,
No.
though. Okay, I just was making sure that wasn't missed.
No. Anything to add, Ms. Robinson?
No.
No, okay. Roll call.
Thank you. Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Miss Berry,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
Miss Lesh, yes, Dr. Carlin,
Yes.
Miss Ryder,
Yes.
and Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item I3, 2022-2023 district calendar. May I have a motion, please?
I motion the Buchanan Board of Education approves the amended 2022-23 school calendar recommended by Buchanan Education Association President Wendy Murphy and Superintendent Robinson.
Support.
Anything to add?
Just so you know that when we approved the tentative agreement last year, the calendars were in there. And so, working with the union, we did decide that each year we do need to meet to kind of review that calendar. This year, we went through a whole process, meeting with the professional development team, the parent advisory committee, and as well as the union to get a calendar for the 22-23 school year. So that is included in your packet.
Good. All right. Roll call.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Miss Berry,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item I4, 2022 robotics overnight trip. May we have a motion, please?
Make a motion that Buchanan Board of Education approves the robotics team trip to Saginaw, Michigan for the purposes of the 2022 state robotics competition. This trip is dependent on qualifying for the tournament, raising the needed funds, and student availability. The robotics team is expected to tentatively depart April 13th, 2022, and return April 16th, 2022, in accordance with the board policy number 2340. This robotics team trip will be under the supervision of Mr. Philip Place.
Support.
All right. And Ms. Robinson?
So this is all contingent upon how they compete in the next, I think this coming up week. And so we're anticipating that the robotics team will do well and qualify and then end up in state. And so this will, if it's approved, we will be able to kind of put the paperwork in and not have a special meeting either for them to go.
Trish,
It's all contingent upon them raising the funds to go.
so that was my question. So what are the funds that would be, I would
So-
hate for it to be cost prohibitive for the kids to get to go.
So it would include the travel, hotel, food, registration fees. So upward to about, what did we say, $6,000, $7,000 is what we need to have for them to go if they do qualify. And so we would hope to kind of fundraise, and we'll, figure out what other additional dollars we can pull together to help this team go, because we don't want to see them not go because of funding.
Okay. All right. And I believe they will do magnificently.
Yes.
So, all right, roll call.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item I5, request for a proposal for the Buchanan High School marquee sign.
I move the Buchanan Board of Education approves Superintendent Robinson's recommendation to accept the bid from North American Signs, Inc. for a new marquee sign for Buchanan High School.
Support.
Okay. And Ms. Robinson?
Yes, so this would be a culminating project for our 100th or Centennial Celebration Committee. And in seeing that there is a need for this electronic sign or marquee out front, we thought this would be a great project for our district to work in conjunction with the Michigan Gateway Foundation. So it would be twofold. We will put in dollars that have been supported by our Facilities Capital Projects Committee to do that. And we recently posted the RFP about a couple weeks ago. We did have a response. It closed on Friday, so we do have, this is the group that responded, and we are recommending them for approval to put the sign up. The hope is that this will be installed by June 11th, so for a big reveal at the event.
Okay.
I would like to add the current sign, as near as we can figure out, was put there in 1962, so it's served the district well.
Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. All right, moving on to item M, question and comments from board members.
I have two. Yesterday marked the 2-year anniversary of Buchanan, Friday the 13th, closing down 2020. And I just want to commend all of the administrators, the staff, the students, everyone the custodians, the people who made all those breakfasts and lunches. Without you, this community would not have persevered as well as we have. I applaud all of you. Secondly, this marks the 40th year of Close-Up, and they are in DC right now, and I've heard from a couple of those parents, and it'll be an exciting time. So we're on a lot of anniversaries this year. So many. So I wish I were going back with those students to DC. Exciting times, that's all. Thank you.
I think you mentioned all the athletic, but we
right.
might, somebody has them all.
I'm going to pick
feel
up a
free.
few more.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Lily Harden, who finished with the second best score in the Microsoft Office Specialist test in the state of Michigan.
Awesome.
It was still qualifying unless Mrs. Robinson knows if there's an update.
Did not.
We'll assume that she's still in second place and maybe headed to a national championship in Dallas.
Nice.
We have Caitlin Walter, who competed and finished fourth in the state in her weight class at the state wrestling meet. And lastly, congratulations to Faith Bartley, who finished first place in the state powerlifting competition in her weight class. So Buchanan continues to send students off to compete and do well at the top levels, both academically and athletically.
All right.
Yeah, I'd like to just, I know Mrs. Robinson mentioned these already, but mention that the concert band festival, the high school band took all #1 ratings, and the middle school band did very well also. Mentioned that the Science Olympiad team finished third in the county with several first and second place medals awarded, and the robotics team made it to the finals of the St. Joe event. First time they've been out of the quarterfinals, I think, in their history. So they also won a prestigious judges award at the event. So congratulations to them.
Also mentioned that we had a play in our auditorium for the play Canceled, and that was an excellent event that we hosted.
Right. Did you have something, Katie?
No, I think it's great. We've been talking about celebrating, and I think social media has been abuzz with all of the good things, so it's been really nice to see that information getting out there. So thank you to everybody that's making that happen.
All right, and I'll end with thank you, Mrs. Beasley. We had our last day of DARE last week, so I guess we have to do K through 4 next. But we did have a lockdown that same day, but they did a drill. Okay, I meant a drill. It was a lockdown drill, people. But they did really well, and I really appreciate the hard work that the staff put in to make that happen. So, thank you. And with that said, our next board meeting is going to be April 18th at 6 o'clock, and we stand adjourned.